What's up, everybody? It's Clark here for the BOS Sports Podcast. Absolutely devastated and absolutely reeling after Jalen Johnson suffered a very concerning injury in this Atlanta Hawks' third consecutive loss to the Toronto Raptors tonight. 122-119, the final score as the Hawks lose it in the final moments there in the fourth quarter. Jalen Johnson, he was injured there at the 10-minute and 50-second mark there in the second quarter on a play which he attempted to contest a Scotty Barnes basket from behind, and with inadvertent and adverse contact with Scotty Barnes, he injured his left shoulder and immediately grabbed it and headed straight to the locker room. Reports from the game were certainly not positive to what they saw in his quick exit from the floor after that injury. Jalen Johnson, as my favorite player in the league today, one of the most exciting players of the game. I hope it's certainly not as severe as it looked or potentially looked there watching on the broadcast, and certainly hope he's okay. We'll await and look forward to or potentially dread the Atlanta Hawks injury reports coming for Jalen Johnson in the upcoming days as he gets further testing done. He was removed from the game and did not return to the game after that point. No further injury update has been given for Jalen Johnson. Ugh. So, here for Atlanta Hawks, Onyeka Okongwu. To recap the game really quick, we're going to recap the game here in today's episode. Later in today's episode, we're going to get into some trade potentials for both these teams. Of course, that dynamic has certainly changed, at least for Atlanta Hawks since then, and a little bit for the Raptors as well, as the Hawks were potentially in that plan. And as well, the Atlanta Braves have signed Jurickson Profar, all-star outfielder from last year, Silver Slugger outfielder from last year. Very exciting pickup for Atlanta Braves, and devastating to be reeling today with this news about Jalen Johnson. So Onyeka Okongwu, going to recap this game for the Hawks a little bit today. Onyeka Okongwu, he had 19 points with 12 rebounds, 5 offensive, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Again, he was everywhere as he made another start tonight. Tonight, Clint Capella, he was out for the game. Might have been a difference maker as his defense was certainly missed today in today's game. Dyson Daniels, he had 22 points, 8 for 14 shooting from field, good for 57.1%, 4 for 5 from free throws as well, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Dyson Daniels, hopefully he'll get a nice nod, if not first all defensive team, potentially considerations for the defensive player of the year. Bogdanovich, he has improved from his recent struggles shooting with a nice 8 for 12 day from shooting from field, 3 for 5 from three-point land. Dominic Barlow, who we're going to see a lot more of coming in the coming days, with Jalen Johnson going to be out for hopefully not much time, but if it is for some time, and it will likely be potentially be. So Dominic Barlow, he had a nice 11-point day with 4 for 6 shooting from field, 1 for 1 from three-point land, 2 rebounds, 2 steals. We saw him be really effective on offense and defense, but not quite the same caliber rebounder as Jalen Johnson. And as well, we look for him to fill out more athletically, for him to hopefully improve on that role as well. For Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young as well, he had a nice double-double, at least assist-wise, with nice 13 assists, 18 points, 7 for 19 shooting from field. His shooting woes continue today, 36.8%, 2 for 8 from three-point land, 25% shooting from Trae Young for 3-point today. For the Toronto Raptors, Scotty Barnes, he had the game high with 25 points, 8 for 17 shooting from field, good for 47.1%, 1 for 2 from three-point land, 8 for 10 from free throw, as well as he had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Raptors had 7 players in double digits. as Jacob Portal. He had Haka Portal. He had 17 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 7 for 10 field goals. RJ Barrett, he had 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 for 3 shooting from 3-point. Nice shooting day for RJ Barrett. He went 6 for 9 from field goals. Speaking of which, Grady Dick, he had 15 points. Bruce Brown, he had 18 points. Nice shooting day for Bruce Brown in a contract year. With 8 for 12, shooting from field, good for 66.7%. Kelly Olynyk, he had 11 points as well. Chris Boucher, also in a contract year. 7 for 10, shooting from field. 2 for 4, from 3-point land. Aforementioned, the Hawks, they met Clint's defensive presence today and rebounding presence. A big key to the Raptors win outside of the extenuating circumstances as well. Clint Capella, he missed his first game of the season, and Zachary Riza-Shea, he's still out and waiting to be reevaluated early next week. As well, for the Raptors, Hako Portal, he had a nice 17.89 rebound day, a 7 for 10 shooting from field, good for 17%. So this game started off with a Grady Dick first score there at the 11-minute, 38-second mark. The Hawks scored not too long after that, around the 11-minute mark. Trae Young, he had a 3-point shot. First Hawks score. Raptors were already off to an early 5-3 lead at that point. Sky Barnes, he had a drive for a layup seconds later, around 10-minute, 45-second mark. 7 for 3 Raptors. But Jalen Johnson, he answered right back. V. Krejci, he hit one of his 3-point shots of the day. He had a nice shooting day, 5 for 10 from field, 3 for 7 from 3-point land, good for 13 points. He hit one of those 3-point shots there, giving the Hawks their first lead there in the early minutes there, 8-7. But Jaco Portal, he had a nice layup, nice answer right back there at the 9-minute, 48-second mark. Grady Dick there at the 9-minute, 10-second mark hits his first layup after the Hawks turnover. The Hawks would have 3 early turnovers and 6 there, 5-6 in that first quarter. Yes, 6 first quarter turnovers as the turnover bug again plagues the Atlanta Hawks as well. They had a poor shooting performance there in the first quarter, 38.9%. Highlighted, Dominic Barlow, he entered the game for the first time there at 3-minute, 53-second mark. He's certainly going to see a lot of action here going forward for Atlanta Hawks. And he had a nice game, aforementioned, with the 11 points and 2 steals as well, 4 for 6 from the field. Jalen Johnson, the 3-minute, 22-second mark, he made it to the line, and he was really struggling with his shot since coming back from his shoulder injury, since his absence. It's been listed as inflammation for Jalen Johnson, his right shoulder, his shooting arm, his shooting shoulder. And he's been struggling some since coming back. But, of course, that might, with his injury today, it's not a concern now. And certainly hope for the best. And really devastated from that. Certainly trying to get through today's episode with that on my mind. 2-minute, 51-second mark there, the first quarter. Bogdanovich, he had a 3-point shot to put the Hawks deficit back to 7 points. The Hawks were only down 19-26 at that point. 2-minute, 31-second mark. The Hawks had their 5th point turnover as Jamal Shed, he had a score off that, putting the Raptors up 28-19. The Raptors were playing a very scrappy brand of defense, very motivated to get this win. Similar story to last night. The Hawks were somewhat out-hustled a bit, especially in the first quarter. So there at the 1 minute, 46-second mark, Don Barlow, he got his ball stolen. It was later called as a block by Kelly Olynyk, going for a fast break score. I thought that would be the Hawks' sixth turnover. Of course, being marked a block, that counted as a missed shot. But seconds later, Bogdan Bogdanovic, he threw a pass out of bounds, resulting in the Atlanta Hawks' sixth turnover. The Hawks would crawl back just a little bit as Don Barlow had a score, pulling the Atlanta Hawks deficit to 10 points there at the end of the first quarter. 35-25. Hawks after first Raptors up by 10 after first quarter. The Hawks were already down the turnover margin 6-3. Field goal percentage after first quarter 60.9% Raptors advantage over the Hawks 38.9%. The Hawks were winning the rebounding margin 10-13 at that point. Bruce Brown there at the 11-minute, 33-second mark. He had the first score there for the Raptors as they went up by 12, 37-25. Sky Barnes there, seconds later, he had another score. Jalen Johnson, he had the answer there for the Atlanta Hawks, but unfortunately, seconds later, he would suffer that very concerning injury on that play with Scotty Barnes. And before we continue to recap the rest of this quarter, we're going to pause really quick. Station identification. It's absolutely devastating. Jalen Johnson, I would compare in excitement to a player like Vince Carter from the early 2000s. Just the full package and scoring wise. And at the power forward position as well. Before his injury, I'd put him up with Jason Tatum and the other elite power forwards in this league. I would separate him between power forwards like Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr. as being a player a bit more adept there on the drive and ball handling, such as Jason Tatum is, and being effective on the drive. And this injury is just absolutely devastating. Of course, aforementioned, being to the left shoulder, non-shooting shoulder, even at the worst potential, did not be a huge problem in the long term for Jalen Johnson and the Atlanta Hawks. So, Kelly Olynyk, shortly after, he put a score, 10-minute, 25-second mark, putting the Raptors up 42-27. And Bashir had a tip dunk, put back at the 9-minute, 56-second mark, putting the Raptors up 44-27. Dominic Barlow, he got a layup on a nice play there at 9-minute, 41-second mark, 44-29. Hawks trail by 15. Dyson Daniels, he had a nice floater on Trae Young's fifth assist there. 46-31 Raptors. 8-minute, 18-second mark. Bogdanovic had a nice layup. He had a nice day. Going 8 for 12 from the field. Good for 66.7%. 3 for 5 from three-point land. Good for 60%. Nice day for Bogdanovic. Of course, he's out for some time as well. And he struggled a little bit coming back. Same like Jalen Johnson. Ooh. So Chris Boucher and Kelly Olynyk, they had some scores in between. As the Raptors, they kept their margin up pretty high as by the Jacob Porto tip-in there at the 7-minute, 59-second mark. Putting the Raptors up 50-34 on his third rebound, first offensive rebound. Seconds later, the Hawks got 3. Dyson Daniels steal, his second steal of the game, out of 4 steals. Hawks deficit back to 13 as the Raptors led 50-37 at that point. At the 6-minute, 50-second mark, the Hawks got a score again, cut the Raptors' lead to 11 points. Chris Boucher, he answered right back on their end with a contested corner 3-point shot. 52. Ooh. And shortly after that, the Hawks announced Jalen Johnson is out for the game around the 6-minute mark. Absolutely devastating. That happened very quickly, as some noted on social media. Very concerning for Atlanta Hawks. Hopefully he's okay. Certainly fearing. And so at the 4-minute, 11-second mark, Dyson Daniels, he had a nice coast-to-coast play. Of course, Dyson Daniels, as noted, working with Kyle Korver over the summer and having a nice Olympics there, shooting around 38% from three-point land in the Olympics for Australia. Certainly, as I noted in my early podcast episodes, we're very high on Dyson Daniels coming in this season, but expecting Knights 22 points on 8 for 14 shooting for 57.1%, such as he had tonight. It's just incredible and amazing to see what Dyson Daniels has become on offense and growing so much since his time there in New Orleans. What he's become to this Atlanta Hawks team on both ends of the floor, as well stepping up in the absence with Kobe Buffkin's injury, having a nice night, such a nice with 5 assists, helping out in the playmaking for Atlanta Hawks. He's been very crucial there in Kobe Buffkin's absence. So Vit Krejci, he hit one of his 3-point shots there around the 3-minute, 33-second mark, as the Hawks were on a quick 9-2 run since the 5-minute, 57-second mark of the second quarter. And Dyson Daniels, he had another 3 at the 2-minute, 52-second mark to pull the Atlanta Hawks within 4 points. A nice 11-2 run there for Atlanta Hawks there early. But Scotty Barnes, he answered right back, clawing the run temporarily, putting the Hawks deficit back to 6 as the Hawks trailed 59-53. Just moments later, Onyeka Okongwu, he was called for one of the Atlanta Hawks' 19 turnovers. Of course, in this podcast, we look at 3 key stats, whether or not team wins a basketball game, that's field goal percentage, turnover, and rebound. And the Hawks, they lost 2 of those. No, 3. No, 2. The Toronto Raptors, they outshot the Atlanta Hawks 58% compared to the Atlanta Hawks 48.3%. They out-rebounded them 39-36. Turnovers. Despite the Atlanta Hawks' early turnover woes, the Toronto Raptors, 19 turnovers compared to the Atlanta Hawks. And Hawks outdid them a little bit in that category. Nice to see that turn around from first half. The first half, of course, ended with a Toronto Raptors lead of 6 points. 65-59 Raptors. They had the margin there, the field goal percentage, 61.4% compared to the Atlanta Hawks, 47.6%. Rebounding margin, 22-23, fairly even at that point with the Atlanta Hawks. Slight advantage, 11-11, even turnovers. Atlanta Hawks were out shooting the Raptors at that point from three-point land. 41.2% to the Raptors, 36.4% at the half. And that would turn around at the end of the game almost exactly as the Toronto Raptors shot 42.9% from three-point land compared to the Atlanta Hawks, 35.1% for the game. So the third quarter started with R.J. Barrett hit a basket, but the Atlanta Hawks answered right back as the Hawks trailed 68-61 by 7 at that point. Grady Dick, he had a nice fast break dunk there at the 10-minute, 1 minute, second mark around there. 72-61. Raptors back up by double digits. DeAndre Hunter, he was in at power forward there to start the third quarter. Of course, with Jalen Johnson out, they had an interesting lineup. Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, and Vit Krejci. And much like we saw odd combinations lineups there early in November, they were very disorganized on offense and defense. It's characterized around the driving play, around the limit mark. As Vit Krejci, he drove into the lane, passed to DeAndre Hunter, and then started to hang out along the baseline out of bounds. Play did not quite make much sense. And eventually it wound up in, I believe, an attempted shot and either a missed rebound, offensive rebound opportunity, or a turnover. The Hawks, they did recover some, was cutting the deficit back to single digits. They're around the 8-minute, 43-second mark, as Onyeka Okongwu had a dunk. Scotty Barnes, he answered right back there with a monstrous slam. DeAndre Hunter, he was there in position to potentially test the dunk, but he made the business decision to get out of the way as the Raptors lead went back up 13 points, 78-65 Raptors. They're around the end of the third quarter. A little bit notable for this game, the Hawks played a very interesting lineup with Dominic Barlow there at the center, David Roddy playing on the floor, Trae Young on the floor. Very interesting look. They were playing a 5-out motion offense with a lot of improvisation. Of course, they're all hanging out there around the arc. All 3-point shooting threats. Dominic Barlow and David Roddy as big men on the floor. It was a very interesting look, and the Atlanta Hawks were able to crawl back in the game and look fairly effective on offense there. So it's an interesting lineup going forward for the Atlanta Hawks. As the third quarter ended with the Atlanta Hawks deficit at 5 points, 94-89 Raptors. Fourth quarter opened with Bogdanovich dunk. Their 10-minute, 30-second mark. Chris Boucher answered right back with 3. 10-minute, 59-second mark. 96-91 Raptors. I'm a bit anxious. So Trae Young around the 9-minute, 10-second mark. He had a floater after a couple Raptors scores. 101-95. Hawks down 6 at that point. At the 8-minute, 49-second mark, there's a coach's challenge on DeAndre Hunter foul. Was successful there. Quinn Snyder challenge was successful. And Trae Young, he had a floater. Moments later, DeAndre Hunter, he had a 3 at the 8-minute, 10-second mark. Trae Young's 10th assist on his way to double-double. As the Atlanta Hawks cut the Raptors' lead to just 3 points, 103-100 Raptors. Bogdanovich, he hit his 21st point. A 3 that tied it there. The Atlanta Hawks, they tied it there with 7 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. It was really close there down the stretch. It felt like if Clint was maybe in the rotation there and gave some minutes, I feel like the Hawks would have a better chance in this game. So the Raptors, they took timeout right after that Bogdanovich 3-point shot. At the 7-minute and 11-second mark on Onyeka Okongwu, he got a dunk. 105-103, Hawks back in the lead. And Trae Young, he hit a 28-foot 3-point shot, a 16-point shot at a 6-minute, 35-second mark. As the Hawks were in command that game, things look good. 108-103 Hawks. Scotty Barnes came back and hit a free throw after a DeAndre Hunter technical foul. And here comes the Raptors. That started a little bit of a run. DeAndre Hunter, he's, as the broadcast noted, is mostly even-headed and rare to commit a technical foul, but it seemed to really hurt the Hawks in this situation. As Chris Boucher, he had 3 moments later, tying the game, 5-minute, 39-second mark. DeAndre Hunter, he answered back with a 3-point shot. As he went 2 for 8 for a day, one of his 2 of his 8 attempts there, tying the game back 107-107. Oh, excuse me. 107 to 111 Hawks. And Onyeka Okongwu, he got offensive rebound, completes a double-double. They're around the 4-minute, 46-second mark, having 5 offensive rebounds, 6 defensive rebounds to that point. He got a couple offensive rebounds, going for a tip and put back there. As well, he hit both free throws on attempt going back. He was fouled and did not make the shot, but he hit both free throws. Good for his 19th point. Hawks lead 113 to 107 there. 4-minute, 46-second mark. Hawks up by a pretty significant margin. But here comes the Raptors again as Jaco Portal. He had the tip back layup there. And his 8th rebound, his 3rd offensive, trimming the Hawks lead 113 to 119. Trae Young at the 3-minute, 58-second mark missed a 3-point attempt. Scotty Barnes hits one on the other end. It was initially called a 2-point shot. It was corrected about 2 minutes later. The Hawks lead at that time was 113 to 111. Officially called on the scoreboard. That's corrected. It was really 113 to 112. R.J. Barrett got a layup moments later, which would put the Raptors over the Hawks, 114 to 113 without that correction. And the Hawks, they got the lead back. 3-minute, 21-second mark as Trae Young went to the free throw line. 115 to 113 after he hit both. Scotty Barnes and R.J. Barrett, they combine on a couple free throws and a 3-point shot to get the Raptors lead back up. That point should have been 118 to 115 with the correction that was later made. Dyson Daniels, he got an answer moments later. His 22nd point, as around that point, the scoring got back up with the 3-point shot. Correction, 118 117. Hawks down by 1. Sky Barnes at the 55-second mark would hit a floater, putting the Raptors up by 3. 120 117, but here comes Bogdan Bogdanovic with one of his 8 field goals at around the 41-second mark. He scored a layup, and that would be the last Hawks score on the game. And as the Hawks would lose 122 to 119. Trae Young, he got a 3-point attempt up there. It was a little bit of a rush shot. Seen a little bit of critique online about. My take on it is it's not a playoff game. And after the devastating injury with Jalen Johnson, you want to get out of this game any way you can, and hopefully with a win. And that's what he did. He went for it there. He went for the shot. Did not work out, but I'm not angry at it. I do not want to see an overtime loss after all we just went through in that game. So I'm thankful for that shot. Some would critique it. I would critique it as well if it were a playoff game, playoff elimination game, anything of that matter. So, aforementioned sections exploring in this episode, other than just covering this game, we're exploring the trade deadline possibilities for not only the Atlanta Hawks, but Toronto Raptors, aforementioned. That is scheduled for this episode. Obviously, with the potential injury to Jalen Johnson, things have much changed for the Atlanta Hawks in just a matter of hours, a matter of minutes there with that devastating news, devastating injury. So, to cover a little bit, aforementioned and post, I'm going to talk a little bit about the apron situation. Information on that was very hard to find before the season started. And since then, there's been a lot of articles that have been put out on the internet about the NBA apron system. A lot of nice ones. Including, I've put out some nice writings as well in the forum posts explaining some of these. And some of the terminology can still get a little bit hairy, a little bit confusing to summarize a little bit. NBA teams can't trade above the first apron. First apron is set just a little bit above $178 million. 178.1, a little bit. Teams who are already over the either first apron are exempt from. So teams under the apron, they can have sending teams retain up to 50% of contract's current year value. So if Atlanta Hawks want to trade for a player on a different team, they can have the sending team retain up to 50% of the current year value. And one of the scenarios I present online would have the Atlanta Hawks trading Clint Capella to the Warriors. And since posting that, a lot of angles of that don't make sense anymore. With the Warriors currently reeling and the Atlanta Hawks now looking at different scenarios as well, Clint Capella's value as well, after a tough week of play, certainly looks significantly less than potentially looked. Of course, he got off to such a great start this season. Hopefully he turns around here for the Hawks. So we're going to continue talking about these possibilities in this episode here after this brief station identification. This is the BOS Sports Podcast. So, other notable exceptions, other than the retainment possibilities for teams under the first apron, being able to take on, being able to accept a retainment of ascending teams, a player's salary of up to 50% of a contract's current year value. Teams under the first apron can as well combine up to 2 players, up to $7.5 million to receive back players with salaries up to 200% back, plus $250K. So, if you were to combine 2 hypothetical players to max out that $7.5 million potential value, a team under the first apron could receive back a player with a contract up to $15,250,000 back, while still going over that first apron. Other exceptions are for contracts of $7.5 million to $1 to $29 million. Receiving teams can take back up to $7.5 million in salary, even if it puts them over the apron. And for the large contracts of above $29 million, teams can take back up to 125% if under that apron, plus $250K as always. Teams over the first apron, some of the limits, these teams, they have to 100% salary match. So the aforementioned exceptions, their apron, they do not apply for teams over the first apron, and that includes, of course, teams in the second apron. Teams in the second apron, the NBA salary cap, they cannot send out cash and deal. They can't combine player salaries in any sense to take on additional value as allotted. So focusing on the Atlanta Hawks opponent today, they're in a very interesting position here with such young talents as Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick, and of course they have a few players on the way out with Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher, who are both combined for a significant amount of salary coming off here in the 2025 offseason. And previously I suggested that Jakob Poeltl, he would potentially be a enticing piece for Atlanta Hawks. And there's rumors over the summer of the Raptors asking 3 first-round draft picks for him. And that's rather steep. And going in this deadline, of course, before this injury, looking at it was potentially something the Hawks could swing if they'd find a potential trade partner such as the Houston Rockets or Golden State Warriors looking for a center in the style of Clint Capella, defensive forward, defensive stalwart center, and stalwart in the rebounding game, such as Clint is with a 7'5" wingspan. And using draft capital from those teams in a three-way trade with the Hawks and the Raptors, potentially acquire Jaco Portal without giving up the Atlanta Hawks first-round draft picks for 2025, which I find very necessary for the Atlanta Hawks rebuilding purposes, and especially after potential news today. So if the Raptors were to move Jaco Portal in those proposed situations, they would be heavily stocked with draft capital. They would have, of course, their draft picks today, this year, and they'd have two 2026 draft picks, with their draft pick being one for protected, their second one there, in 2026. As well, they'd have two 2027 draft picks, with the draft pick from the Atlanta Hawks in that proposed trade that I made about a week ago. It was a nice trade suggestion, but things have rapidly changed for both the Atlanta Hawks. The Raptors on two-game win streak as well, arguably for them, as well as Golden State Warriors are now under 500. So they're potentially looking at big changes and not to improve. The Atlanta Hawks are potentially looking at Trae Young. He is contracted for next year and then has a player option just down the road here. I have it on the next slide here. So now, Weddle, I see him more as a big piece for him going forward. He is 29 and will be eligible for bird rights after his contract expires next year. He does have a player option for following year. Raptors, aforementioned, Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher will get off their payroll next season. But with their rising contracts with R.J. Barrett and Scotty Barnes, the Raptors only projected to lose about $10 million in cap space next offseason, assuming they pick up player options on Grady Dick and Ochai Ajabaji. Might be potential for the Raptors to trade one of those players. Something that Raptors, of course, they do not have a ton of payroll flexibility. They'll need to continue on working, shooting their stars, R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, who had nice nights tonight. Aforementioned Atlanta Hawks broadcast, their obvious hole tonight was at the point guard position. Of course, Manuel quickly, he was out for the Raptors tonight, and he's seen varying success. He averages nice numbers. Of course, his shooting percentage isn't ideal for where a point guard would be. Of course, the Atlanta Hawks share a little bit that same concern, unfortunately. So, the Raptors, they could potentially use an answer there at the point guard position. But the Raptors are currently projected to select Ace Bailey with the number 2 selection in the NBA draft, with current NBA draft projections for 2025 draft. But if the Raptors continue this hot streak, Asanuel, who has been shooting up in the mock draft projections, forward and center, out of UGA, Phenom. He was 6'9" in high school and is now listed at 6'11" there for the UGA Bulldogs, playing some center for them. Projected to be a power forward in the NBA. He would be a nice fit for this Toronto Raptors team. You got Scotty Barnes, R.J. Barrett, and Asanuel there, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, Jaco Portal. that's a very interesting potential team there. And with that, I'd just be looking at adding a stalwart point guard, Manuel Quickly. Gonna pause here for some station identification as I get this power source back. So I think Emmanuel Quickly is a nice guard, nice player, continuing to develop. I think he's an essential piece for his Toronto Raptors team, but I'd like to see another piece there at the point guard position there for Toronto Raptors. Another look for him. This offseason, there's not a whole bunch. D'Angelo Russell will be the headlining point guard. Of course, Malcolm Brogdon and Tyce Jones will also be available. That is Kyrie Irving. He has a player option this offseason. That'll be interesting to see, but I could him declining a player option to play for the Toronto Raptors is completely off the radar. It'd be interesting to see, but other free agents would be in the 2025 point guard position. In the NBA will be Malcolm Brogdon, Tyce Jones. They're nice point guards, and would certainly make an impact on the Toronto Raptors team. And if the Raptors see Emmanuel Quickly as their point guard of the future, they would certainly be nice options. Tyce Jones, of course, he signed that for the Suns. That was a great deal for the Suns. That might be a great holdover option if the Raptors could get Tyce Jones on a deal like the Suns got. Pair him with Manuel Quickly, get Asa Newell in the draft. Things are looking up for the Raptors. Of course, they still have those 2 first-round draft picks for 2026. Also, they have a nice prospect at center. They selected in the second round of 2024 Ulrich Kamachi. If you need, he's there with the Toronto Raptors G League team, and hopefully it'll be a nice piece there for Raptors. As I think they'd also need a little bit more depth at center. I mean, if you have Asa Newell, R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, I'm not sure D'Angelo Russell is quite the right fit for the Raptors, but imagine some kind of stalwart point guard, right fit, along with Emmanuel Quickly, Jakob Poeltl, Kelly Olynyk. This is starting to look like a nice team, a very deep team, playoff threat team for the Toronto Raptors. I could see how they could get there. So moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. Tough after today. It all depends on what Jalen Johnson's status today. Before coming in today, we're asking not if the Atlanta Hawks could be a contender this season, but how. We're looking at how the Atlanta Hawks could get Jakob Poeltl. Now, things are much up in there. Jalen Johnson, if he's somehow projected to be back by the end of March, then I think you could still look at making an aggressive buy move for Atlanta Hawks. Looking forward to this postseason. You will have Jalen Johnson back. Enough time to condition and be a stalwart force as we've seen him be Jalen Johnson for the playoffs. If he's not going to be back until late March and early April, where conditioning might be a concern, shoulder is a huge part, of course, in an NBA game. And the Hawks are going to have to look up different options, and options I'm honestly not prepared to completely suggest for today. Some positive signs for Atlanta Hawks potentially looking ahead this season is Nick Richards. He's acquired for 3 second-round draft picks, really 2 second-round draft picks as the Hornets sent one back to the Suns. But the hope for the Hawks, unfortunately, there's just not that much else out there that really makes that much sense as far as trades. DeAndre Ayton, you have to assume he's absolutely available from the Blazers. That'd be a huge gamble contract-wise. The Blazers could do a massive salary retainment, and DeAndre Hunter still has a huge cap hit next season. Valanciunas for the Wizards, who's been rumored, and trade rumors could potentially be required without giving up too much. And then the Hawks would have 4 centers when Larry Nance returns. And his contract is definitely not to be dismissed as well, being in the 8 figures there. Robert Williams, the third, he's also often injured and has a 8-digit salary as well for next season. So a max salary retainment. Start potentially looking like a worthwhile endeavor, depending on what's given up in return. So Jalen Johnson, aforementioned the injury tonight is to his non-shooting shoulder, so we certainly wish him the best. I think he's the most exciting player in basketball coming in tonight. So absolutely devastated by his loss, a potential injury tonight. Looking forward for the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young is contracted for 2 more seasons after this season, with the season after next being player option. So he's contracted for next season, and then the season after that is a player option. Clint Capella is a free agent after this season. Warriors have fallen out of contention, I believe, for what they'd potentially be looking as a buyer. They're probably looking as a seller now. The Houston Rockets, they could use a backup center for Alperen Sengun. And they have the salary as well, the salary space to potentially acquire Clint Capella. And the retainment might have to be worked out. Other unrestricted free agents for Atlanta Hawks in 2025. Larry Nance Jr., Harrison Matthews as well. Of course, NBA teams can only sign 1 player in the offseason of bird rights. I have, at this point, only looked at possibilities to improve at the front court, with Dyson being a playmaker and having 5 assists tonight. He's been a nice playmaker with Kobe Buffkin out. It's going to take me some time to readjust here for new potential moves, depending on Jalen Johnson news. Certainly keep track on it and relay it as soon as it comes along. So I guess it's the only good news for Atlanta sports today is for Atlanta Braves. They signed all-star outfielder from last year's Silver Slugger Jurickson Profar. 3 years, $12 million first year, $15 million, and $15 million after that. Good for $42 million combined. You can get to that in a moment after one last station identification. This is the BOS Sports Pod. Jurickson Profar. He's a switch hitter. Last year, he had a batting average of 280. He had a very hot start there in the first half of the season. He cooled off a little bit in the second half, but he still had 158 hits, 24 home runs, 85 runs batted in, 94 runs scored. Chipper Jones always said, score 100 runs, you have a nice season. He had an on-base percentage of 380, slugging percentage of 459. 2024 is Silver Slugger and All-Star campaign with an on-base plus slugging percentage of 839 and 158 games played. So Brian De La Cruz is also signed to a non-guaranteed split with the Braves. We've seen him recently seasons with the Marlins. He's nice outfield depth, being non-guaranteed split. He has options. So they got Raj, Ronald Acuna Jr., Jared Kelenic, Jurickson Profar, and Michael Harris II, as always. So we'll dive into that more here in upcoming episodes of the BOS Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening today. We'll have a better episode Monday. We'll get more organized after this devastating Jalen Johnson injury. So thanks for listening to today's episode. Be sure to stream previous episodes of BOS Sports Podcast. Stream Bar Soap Music on Spotify. And we'll see you again Monday night after the Monday night Hawks game.